Bakugo getting revived by Edgeshot was one of the best scenes in the final war arc of My Hero Academia. Not just best, but super important, as Bakugo got his quirk awakening, saving All Might from his brutal death, and even went as far as beating All for One. Bakugo coming back to life was a key moment that allowed the heroes to win the war, helping Izuku with allowing him to truly focus solely on Shigaraki. But what if Bakugo didn't get revived? What would happen to All Might without Bakugo coming in to save him, and how would the world react? Will Izuku be strong enough to stop both Shigaraki and All for One? More importantly, how would Izuku react with just losing his idol after just losing his best friend? Honestly, this story will get pretty dark, so be prepared for the worst. We go up to the moment that this what if changes. All for One has his grip on All Might and begins pulling him apart as Izuku and the entire world watches. Unfortunately, in this timeline, Edgeshot still tried to stitch Bakugo's heart, but the little explosions that originally started up Bakugo's heart again didn't explode this time, leading to Bakugo remaining dead. Without this major revival, sadly no one is able to save All Might. Even Izuku. Izuku would try to fly towards All Might, but he also has to maneuver around Shigaraki since he is chasing him, making him take longer to get to All Might. With Izuku not being able to reach All Might in time to save him, All for One rips him in half in front of the entire world, as everyone, including Izuku, watches as the symbol of peace is killed. The entire world is left shocked in silence, unsure if the heroes can even win. Gran Torino breaks down crying, now having experienced two close friends die to All for One, and even having to possibly witness seeing Izuku perish as well. Kids watching this are all stunned to see the great hero All Might be killed. For Class 1A, they are all shocked as well, but more worried about Izuku, as they all know his connection with All Might and how he is alone out there. Shigaraki and All for One laugh maniacally, while Izuku breaks down mentally. He may have kept his composure when he saw Bakugo's dead body, but seeing his mentor and idol since he was a child killed in front of him and failed in saving him, Izuku crumbles. A mix of rage and sadness takes over, just like when Bakugo got stabbed by Shigaraki, but times that by 100. However, the second user tries to help Izuku to keep his composure, to not become predictable, but Izuku is struggling to keep a level head. Izuku is now on his own, having to deal with both Shigaraki and All for One. Izuku doesn't want to try to save Shigaraki anymore. He thinks back to Gran Torino's message, and knows what he must do. Izuku made up his mind that he will take down All for One and Shigaraki permanently. Now the big question is, can Izuku face off Shigaraki and All for One alone? And the answer to that is that he doesn't have to. Shigaraki doesn't care about All for One and would even fight him since Shigaraki knows that All for One tried to take over his body and Izuku would just take this to his advantage. Izuku tries to play on the defensive, but his body is barely holding on. All for One would try to target Izuku while Izuku maneuvers so that Shigaraki would be near and try to attack both of them. For Shigaraki, he doesn't care who he's facing as he just wants to kill both of them. Knowing Izuku, even when his body is at the brink of breaking, he will keep fighting. Everyone would watch the fight going on as they're all scared, unsure if Izuku could save them. There really aren't any other heroes that can go aid Izuku as most of the heroes are pretty injured. The best hope that Izuku has right now is holding off long enough till Class 1A and other heroes come in to help him out. Even if they did, their chances to beat All for One as a class would be pretty slim. They may have the numbers but honestly lack the amount of destructive power that awakened Bakugo had. Most of the students are already pretty exhausted and injured, but they still do not back down as right now their goal is to just distract All for One so that Izuku can focus on Shigaraki. Now I do see that Kudo would still think of the idea of giving one for all to Shigaraki, but with how dire things currently are, he wouldn't believe it would be a good idea. Even if Kudo suggested the idea, I don't think Izuku would have gone with it. Here, Izuku isn't trying to save Shigaraki anymore and is dead set wanting to just end his and All for One's terror. And I honestly believe that the fact that Izuku wanted to save Shigaraki in the normal timeline was the main reason Izuku didn't want to beat Shigaraki in the traditional sense. I can see Izuku managing to beat Shigaraki, fully killing him by disintegrating his body after a 100% full power smash mixed with Fajin and Gear Shift, so that he can take Shigaraki down in one strike, not giving him the chance to ever recover. However, after finishing off Shigaraki, and like how Kudo warned Izuku multiple times, Izuku would lose one arm as the attack would destroy his arm completely and leave Izuku basically immobilized after using Gear Shift. All for One would be completely enraged seeing his vessel being killed and would rush at Izuku to kill him. Now most of the heroes that were fighting All for One are already down after taking even even more injuries and most likely more heroes would have died. But luckily, they would manage to have All For One rewind at least twice, making him younger to be around a young kid. Aizawa gets to Izuku and would rewind Izuku to recover his arm that he lost like he did in the canon. Izuku gets back up but still feels how exhausted his body is, but seeing All For One rush right at him, so he uses Black Whip to reinforce his body so that he can keep fighting since he still has all of his quirks besides Danger Sense. He then would dive right back into the fight to finish off All For One, as he would have some aid from the other remaining heroes, and with the amount of power One For All has, I think Izuku could easily beat All For One with some aid and not having to use the quirk Gear Shift, since with One For All, he could do significant amount of damage to force All For One to rewind all the way to being unborn and winning the war without having to lose his quirks, besides Danger Sense. The world celebrates and worships Izuku as he becomes the new symbol of peace. The world would mourn the heroes that perished during the war, but mainly it would be all around All Might. Class 1A would return back to UA and continue with their schooling, but would definitely mourn the death of Bakugo. Honestly, things would end the same, at least for the world learning about the era of the past and deciding to change their path for the hero society. But the one main change is all around Izuku. Still having One For All, his future of being a hero changes. He goes through the other 2 years of UA with ease, but the other classmates can sense something off with him. The death of All Might and Bakugo hit him hard. But another thing is that Izuku believed that he had failed as a hero, not because he couldn't save Shigaraki, but the fact that he himself gave up on Shigaraki and had to resort to killing him. Izuku also had the pressure of being the next All Might. He doesn't really mind it as he already decided that once he is finished in his last year of UA, he would pour all of his focus and time on being a pro hero, not just in Japan, but all over the world. He would already be world famous and be the #1 pro hero in Japan, possibly maybe #2 based on how Izuku's personality would be during this time as a pro hero, competing with Mirio for the spot of #1. But if we just counted power and strength alone, Izuku is uncontested with anyone else. Izuku would be known as the world's greatest hero, but he would forever live with the failure of him not being able to save All Might, Bakugo, and Shigaraki, which is why he just drowns himself into hero work, thinking that this is the only way he could ever make up for failing the people he idolized the most. If only Izuku knew that in another timeline where Bakugo and All Might lived, but he lost One For All. There is no doubt in my mind that Izuku would happily make that trade to have both All Might and Bakugo back. Man, that is a bittersweet ending, but without Bakugo coming back to life, All Might would no doubt perish, and this would push Izuku to the brink and having to give up on his goal in saving Shigaraki. But what do you think? If Bakugo wasn't revived, what else would have happened? But if you wonder if things could have gotten a lot worse, think about this. What if the main character, Izuku Midoriya, was never born in the world of My Hero Academia? To find out, click right here and watch What If Deku Was Never Born. If you enjoyed, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel, as any support means a lot. If you have any what ifs you would like for me to go through, just leave them down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all next time, and have a plus ultra day.